We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Beis Amud Aleph and Meseches Kesuvos. This is Kesuvos Daf 102a. And the previous summer there was a Machlokas Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Let's say you have a situation where a person admits to somebody else that he's chayev a moneh, he's chayev 100 dinar. And so the case was, the Machlokas wasn't specifically in a case where, let's say, the person writes a shtar, he doesn't sign the shtar. Is that the same thing as saying Atem Eidai, that you are my witnesses in front of the people who are observing the Hodah? And Rabbi Yochanan said that in such a situation where you write the shtar and you don't sign it, you are chayev the moneh. And Reish Lakish said pater. And the Gemara tried to bring a proof from our Mishnah, because our Mishnah had a similar situation where a person takes upon himself an obligation to support his stepdaughter for 5 years. And the Gemara assumes it's the same kind of situation. The obligation was taken in the same fashion. And the Gemara says, Lo, no, Bishtari Psikta. In our Mishnah, we're not talking about the same type of obligation. It's a different scenario. The scenario is what's referred to as Shtari Psikta. Rashi over here says, Lo Bishtari Psikta hachosan v'hakala. Poskin tanoim shebeneim b'shnei edim v'edim chosmim edus gemura. There actually are edim over here. They sign a full testimony that these are the conditions between the chasan and the kala. And if you're going to ask him, so if that's the case, that you signed with edim, what's the chiddush? Of course the person is chayev in this obligation. So Rashi says it's going to lek a kinyan. The case over here is even though they signed, but they never made a kinyan. Ela devarim, it was just words. Be'ashminan kid Rev Gidol delo boy kinyan. And the chiddush over here is like Rev Gidol says that we don't require a kinyan. As the Gemara says, uchud Rev Gidol, it's like what Rev Gidol said. Diyam Rev Gidol amar Rav, because Rev Gidol said that Rav said, Kama tanosen lebincha kach v'kach v'kama tanosen lebitcha kach v'kach. Let's say you have an arrangement of a marriage. How much are you going to provide into the marriage for your son who's getting married? How much are you going to provide for your daughter who's entering into the marriage? And they say certain amounts, amdu v'kitchu, then they get up and they have a kiddushin. Kanu, that is considered an acquisition. Hein hadivorim haniknin ba'amira. This is an example of something where the kinyan is made just by amira, just by a statement, and that's the same idea over here by the Shtari Psikta, and it is not going to be relevant to the Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come in here the following proof. Kasav lekohen shani chayev loch chamesh sloim. Let's say a person writes to a kohen that he's chayev 5 sloim. Again, you're talking here about the halachas of pidyon haben. So instead of giving the 5 sloim to the kohen, the person just writes an obligation to the kohen that he's chayev the 5 sloim. So chayev liten lo chamesh sloim. So by writing that down, he is chayev to give the 5 sloim. However, ubeno eino padeh. However, the son is not going to be considered redeemed. That's not going to be a good pidyon haben, but he is chayev to give the 5 sloim. And so the Gemara says, Shani Haslam, it's different over there. So the Gemara wants to say, don't you see from over here that we see that when you write down this kind of obligation, it seems like there is an obligation. It seems to be a proof for Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara says, no, Shani Haslam, it's different over there. He's really already chayev to give the coin 5 slime on a doraisa level. So of course, when you write it down, that can create an obligation. But if you're trying to create an obligation from scratch, that would be a different situation. But the Gemara says, if so, amai kasav, so what's even writing anything down? If he's chayiv already from the Torah, what's he writing anything down for? And to that, the Gemara says, kedei lavar lo kohen, that's in order just to select which particular kohen he's giving the 5 slime to. Again, it's not relevant to the machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. The Gemara says, if so, beno amai no pade, but if there's a full obligation over here, why isn't the son actually considered redeemed? That should be a good pidyon haben. It should be a good redemption of his firstborn son, of his bechor. And to that, the Gemara says, Kidu Ula, it follows what Ula said. The Amar Ula, because Ula said, Dvar Torah Padri L'cheshiyite. And really, on a Doraisa level, when he gives the money, this would be a good pidyon. Umay time Amru Beno Eno Padri. Why do they say that his son is not redeemed? Gezerah Shema Yomru Podin B'shtaris. It's just a gezerah, because people might get confused, and they might think that you're even allowed to redeem a firstborn son with a shtar. In other words, let's say somebody owed me money, and I give that shtar to the Kohen. Now the Kohen can collect. I might think even that is okay, and that is actually not okay. Rashi over here says, Levar lo kohen shelo yitanenu lo kohen acher. Again, he's just writing it down to select which kohen, but the obligation is already there. It's not relevant to the machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Ihachi, if so, the time mishum shibuda doraisu, that there's already a chiyav on a doraisa level. V'havelei kamei edim v'chosmim. It's similar already to having edim and signatures. So amayin b'no padai. So why isn't the son redeemed if that's the case? And to that, the Gemara answered, Shema Yomru Podin as abechor b'shtari chov sheyesh lo alacher. Let's say a person is a creditor and he has a shtar against somebody. Umasr l'kohen b'pidyon. He says, here to the kohen. He says, you take it, and that'll be the redemption, and you can collect the money that's owed to me. The asi l'meimer mali hayshtar mali hayshtar. People will get confused if you can write down an obligation in a shtar. So then why can't you just give a shtar? They won't see the difference. The anon tanan Meseches bechoros, but we learned in a Mishnah Meseches bechoros ein podin lo ba'avodim v'lo b'shtaros v'lo b'karkos. There's no such thing as redeeming a firstborn son